Welcome to the MindMill Podcast, where host Seth Marcus dissects and discusses all things impacting young adults. Peers, mentors, and professionals share intimate conversations on subjects such as entrepreneurship, exercise and health, music and art, the blessings and curses of technology, travel, and how to navigate adulthood in this age of information. We are the largest generation in history, and we dictate the future. The MindMill. Find your purpose, fuel your purpose.
Hey guys, before we start today's episode, I wanted to fill you in on my newest product, the MindMill Booklet. Over the past years, my life has been transformed by my writing practice. I use a daily journal and digital note-taking apps to organize my life, pursue my goals, and hold myself accountable. However, my absolute most essential writing platform has always been my pocketbook. It's my mind's inbox, where I collect ideas, build lists, and capture notes from conversations. I love it because there are never any distractions, and it keeps me off my phone. For years, I used a simple blank notebook before realizing I could do this better. I wanted my daily pocketbook to have the sections we use every day. Shopping lists, things to research later, favorite quotes, habit tracking, and etc. So I created it. The MindMill Booklet is designed to be your catch-all for creativity and productivity. It's packed with useful and intuitive note templates, easy navigation, inspiring art, and powerful quotes. I keep mine in my back pocket every day. It's truly a game changer. The best part about it is that it keeps me productive and in my mind rather than on my phone. So pick yourself up a booklet, join the ever-growing community of writers, support the MindMill, and improve your focus by putting pen to paper. Go to themindmill.com for more details, one hell of a podcast, and all MindMill updates. Yes, I am so excited to introduce today's episode with you. Today is the first episode of the habit hacking series here on the MindMill Podcast. Early in 2019, the MindMill teamed up with an event to promote the understanding, impact, dissection, and mastering of our personal habits. The summit, Habit Hackers, was a massive success, bringing hundreds together to learn from top performers, entrepreneurs, Super Bowl champions, and elite coaches. The day-long summit was packed with presentations and workshops to aid in mastering routines that shape our lives. I had the pleasure of interviewing the creator, David Blutenthal, on the podcast to discuss his inspiration for habit hackers. We also dove into our trials and tribulations surrounding our own personal habits. A great episode. Be sure to go back and give it a listen or a refresher. Now, David is expanding Habit Hackers this year with a series of mini workshops before the next big summit in early 2020. These workshops will give participants hands-on opportunities to tackle their habits in different areas of their life with accountability and social support. Whether you desire to transform your personal finance habits, create more effective communication, or build new structures for your health and fitness, you'll find something to take on with these workshops. You can find more information about all things Habit Hackers at www.habithackers.co. Okay, there's the backstory. Today's episode is with one of the presenters at Habit Hackers, beatboxing world champion Kaila Mullady. I'm going to start off by reading this girl's bio because it is absolutely insane. Kaila Mullady is the 2015 and 2018 World Beatbox Champion, the 2014 American Vice Beatbox Champion, 3 times Loop Station Champion, and 3 times Beat Rhyme Champion. She was the first woman to ever beat a man on a national level in the North American Battle League. Kaila performs all over the world, infusing beatboxing, singing, rapping, and theater to push the boundaries of creativity and show just what the human instrument is capable of. God, I love that bio. Kaila has been in beatboxing for over a decade. She is a leader, teacher, and advocate of the craft all over the world. Kaila has always been talented, but credits her success in competition to her mindset and her commitment to daily habits. We discuss these habits and their origin. Starting with breathing practices to warm up for beatboxing, Kaila discovered how ritual and routines can prime her body and mind for success. She is now a dedicated journaler, habit tracker, and meditator. Kaila and her partner, Mark Martin, formed Lightship Beatbox, sharing their gift and passion to empower all ages in creative expression. Their presentation at Habit Hackers floored me, both as a fellow musician and participant. The blend of entertainment and self-expression, coupled with education and habit awareness, facilitates a learning experience like no other. Kaila and I got right into this episode. She and I got lost in travel stories before realizing we had an interview to conduct. Kaila's energy is palpable. She carries so much passion for her craft. We decided to have a jam session after the interview, and I'm so glad we recorded it. I've included a bit of our, quote, bass and drum session following the interview, so stick around. I hope you enjoy this MindMill episode with Kaila Mullady. honestly, I didn't think that I would adopt a new genre of music that I would like, because I thought that at this time, learning so much about music, I kind of know what I like and what I don't like, and I'm still very open to new artists and anything, but I've just never been a big house music person.
Oh, and then you went to Germany.
And then I went to Berlin.
Yeah.
And I went to the clubs and experienced it like the way that it was supposed to be done.
Yep.
And I really changed things up for me.
Crazy like warehouse parties there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome, man.
The coolest thing about it is I chose not to do too many substances, but just the energy there was so intoxicating.
Berlin's a
I just woke up and I was like, I'm tired, but I don't care because I just have to go out there and keep exploring, you know? It's like I got to get a little bit of sunlight in before the night goes down. And then because I know once the sun goes down, the city just changes.
And then it's alive.
Right. I mean, it's alive during the day too. You really there's no real good time to sleep. I would go on walks throughout these famous, kind of like the Brooklyns of Berlin. Yeah. And there'd just be street art everywhere and people who are
street performing with full bands and amps and stuff. It's like a full concert on the street.
Yeah. So I imagine you've been there.
Yeah, the World Beatbox Champs are in Berlin. Oh, don't ask me why, but that's where they are every year.
Okay.
So the first year I went there, I didn't really experience Berlin. I just saw the hostel where all the beatboxers were, and we went to the venue. But basically, it's the biggest beatboxing party in the whole world.
Oh my
God.
It's
300 or 400 of the top artists from all around the world. So the first time it was me meeting people for the first time. So I did not care about Berlin. I didn't see the wall. I didn't see anything. I just saw my insular community. And then last year when we went, I was like, okay, I need to see Berlin. I feel like I didn't even go there the first time. So last time I went there, we had a few extra days, really walked around. It was a lot more scattered where we had events and parties happening. So it was crazy. It's awesome.
Any highlights from it?
From the World Champs or Berlin?
Either.
Well, Berlin, the donor sandwiches are just the best thing I've ever eaten. It's a fate, 4 of my hands worth of a sandwich, and it's only €2. So that's basically just what I live off of when I Berlin. It's becoming a tradition now to just eat donor sandwiches all day.
Kebabs.
Yeah, kebabs. It's so good.
I don't even know the kebabs. They kind of pronounce it differently.
Yeah, but I think, just being another really powerful thing when we were in Berlin. So I produce the American Beatbox Champs now, but we also produce the Mexican Beatbox Champs. And last year we started it, and it was really special because when I went to go see the Berlin Wall this time, basically to make the Mexican Beatbox Championships happen, there were 3 countries coming together. So it was Mexico, the UK, and America, because the Mexican champs couldn't find funding and they couldn't really get the resources together to have a championships every year. So other than last year, the last time they had it was 4 years ago. So it really sucks because the community out there and the artists out there are really incredible. And you have to win your country's title to go to the World Champs. So in 3 months last year, we basically had 3 countries come together and we said, in order to get somebody this year to represent Mexico, we need to have a Mexican Beatbox Championships in 3 months. So we worked crazy. We threw this really big event. The whole Mexican community was so excited because they were coming together again in Mexico City. And then so the team that we were with after the World Beatbox Championships, we kind of went to the wall and we were just celebrating. We had a beer, but it was really special because, especially in America last year, it was me and my friends from Mexico, and we were standing in this broken wall that now is in question of America. So that was really powerful for just us to be whoa, this is something that they want to do to us between our communities. So I think that for me was even now I'm oh, whoa, that was a really special group of people to be with in order to experience that and kind of feel the weight of that.
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting.
It was really cool. So I think that was my favorite moment.
You went to the East Side Gallery, I imagine, that long strip. Yeah. So I completely agree. Just being there and putting your hands on it, it's just such a powerful experience, and what it represents. And thinking back at, a lot of my father's family is Russian and Polish Jewish. And so being in the Berlin Wall, just being in Berlin is just very sensitive, right?
Yeah.
But seeing all that art just right around that area, it's just this constantly moving. It's just an evolving piece. The entire city is just a constant art piece being developed.
Yeah.
Whether it's someone tagging over something else or a new building that's signing on an artist to do a mural.
The murals are incredible.
And it's just so cool because they'll be world famous muralists and artists that get contracted to do these amazing works, and then somebody will just kind of belay down in the middle of the night in like 10 seconds and put their tag around the side of it.
On the face, yeah.
Sometimes it's on the face, but there seems to be a little bit more of like a non-spoken agreement, a non-spoken kind of etiquette to tagging. Some places are just fair game, but there'll be other buildings, like with Berlin especially, World War II destroy its culture and history. World War II was extremely damaging to that city, not just, emotionally and to the people and the loss of life, but also just the buildings.
Physically,
so when you go to Prague, this like little fairy tale land where everything's intact from like the 1300s, and you can see this ancient history, or like the Vatican, places like that.
Yeah.
And then Berlin, it's like, there's not much there.
It's just new.
Right. So there's a few things like that. And the places that are old and preserved are, from what I saw, pretty untouched. They kind of respect that as like sacred historical land, even though the rest of the city is like fair game for tagging.
Yeah.
Like you go to Kreuzberg. Did you go to Kreuzberg while you were there? Next time. I imagine you go there yearly now, or every few years?
Every couple of years, yeah.
Go to Kreuzberg. Stay in Kreuzberg if you can. It's right by the East Side Gallery. The East Side Gallery is on the, I guess it's on the west side. I always get it mixed up, of the river. And then there's this famous bridge that was closed during most of the Cold War. And that's like Friedrichstein's on one side and Kreuzberg's on the other. And both of which are like really diverse, cool parks. Everything's covered in street art.
Yeah.
And it's just this amazing, amazing community that you can just check out. You can just wander and see anything and everything.
That's the best.
Yeah. Well, I figure like we're already in this podcast. There was no official introduction to Kaila Mullady.
Nope.
Yeah, that's how you say your name?
Mullady.
Mullady.
Yeah,
See,
put some respect on that name.
Mullady.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that.
I do good when I go to like Renaissance fairs. They're all, Mullady. I'm like, that's right. Everyone knows me here. This is my people.
I'll take 2 free turkey legs.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I just changed, in spirit of the new Game of Thrones season coming out, I changed my Siri nickname to say my lord. So whenever I ask it something, it says like, "I'm sorry, my lord."
Yes,
usually it's
lord.
apologizing because it can't do what I ask it to. That's kind of like the tale of
And then
Siri.
you don't care anymore because you're
But
like,
it's just like, well, at least you had the respect.
no, it's okay.
So.
Don't worry about it. You're trying, Siri.
So Kaila Mullady,
Yes.
welcome to the MindMill Podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, I am too. You kind of like, as soon as you walked in the door, I was like, all right, this is gonna be a fun one.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I think, having music and also having this habit building and self-development thing in common is awesome for me, because I think a lot of people in the music industry don't have that necessarily. So it's very refreshing to be with a like-minded person.
I agreed. We're meeting in regards to an event that we're going to be participating in coming up, the Habit Hackers event. This will probably be released afterwards, but we'll be both marketing plenty for it. But I completely agree. Like the types of people that are coming around, both the speakers, a lot of the staff. I didn't realize this until I started getting more of it. It's like I know a good amount of the people who are on staff, and they're also just great people too. So it just seems like everything's coming together. And there's something special about a first year event too. There's kind of like a little bit of unknown, and there's a lot of energy surrounding it. And
it's a community being built now. I think that is, as a beatboxer, me being in a community has inspired me so much. And that's how I grew. To be around people that do the same thing as you, that inspire you, that have more knowledge than you or can share things. That's when wherever you are, your level just skyrockets. So the fact that, I just moved here recently, and the fact that now I'm going to be in a place full of people that are extremely passionate about this, self-development, trying to grow, being vulnerable, being the best that you can be. That excites me because I know by being around this group of people, I'm only going to grow and learn more things.
Totally. I'm also a transplant, but I've been here almost a decade now.
Ooh.
But there's such an energy to exactly what you just brought up as far as the community. It seems like, at least in Denver, and I hope that this translates to other cities and communities across the United States and the world, that it's starting to shift away from being more competitive against each other and just being competitive with yourself.
Yeah.
And that really builds the community around what you guys are, the shared interests, right? Whether it's golf or powerlifting or beatboxing or music, yoga, writing, anything. At least here in Denver, you find these small pockets of people who are passionate and they want to like bring you up with them. They're so eager to share information and experience to and just build a community around it, because I think that a lot of America's starved for that. A lot of people feel like they're in this giant global community on the internet, but they don't feel like they have a community right around them that they can connect with.
As people, that's what we want. We want to belong. We want to fit in. We want to have a group of people that will listen to us and, also like call us out on our BS and all that stuff. And that was actually one of the reasons I moved to Denver, because we came from New York City. New York City is amazing, and I have the best friends in the entire world there. But it's a very different mindset there of, if you have done 20 shows this week and I only slept 1 hour last night, like, oh, I'm working so hard, like that's a badge of honor there. And it's just like a place where the mindset is a burnout mindset, and that's how you get more respect. And it's just so many people. It's so big that even though I have amazing friends and there are communities there, you don't get to see the same people all the time. It takes a long time for people to meet with each other. So I was lacking that sense of community that I really felt personally kind of taking a toll on me. So one of the core things of, habit training and really diving into this stuff is knowledge of self. You have to know where you're at, and you have to know what you want and what's best for you in order to grow and become the person that you want to be. So moving from New York City, it was definitely one of those things where I was like, I love it. I grew up in Long Island. I've been in New York City my whole life, but I knew I needed to be in a place that was like more nature, a little slower, and more of a community. So being here has been awesome. And then basically as soon as I came here, I met David, who's putting on Habit Hackers. And he told me this about the event happening. And I was like, hell yeah, like this is what I'm talking about. This is exactly why I wanted to come here and like be around a group of people that you can hang out with and see all the time.
Yeah. How has been the transition from New York to Denver?
It's great. But again, it's like one of those things where I feel like I had to shake off this New York City mindset, which I don't really think is healthy. I think just on the base level of being in New York City, everyone's grinding, they're working really hard. It's very expensive. Everything is a lot of work. Plus, I think, now that I've come out here, I really think that when you walk around New York City, you see these crazy skyscrapers that are like hundreds of feet tall. And even though you didn't personally make it, like I didn't build the Empire State Building, but when I look at it, I'm like, whoa, look what humans built. We built this thing. We are the alpha. We are the coolest. Look at us. And then you come here and you see the Rocky Mountains and you're like, get slapped in the face by our beautiful planet. And you're like, no, actually, you're a part of an ecosystem. Like you are a small speck. So I think it's very humbling being here. And I think that for me, the idea of being active versus being productive has changed a lot, because in New York, it was very much just like I was working all the time. I felt guilty when I wasn't working. Like I never created space for myself because it's just not what you do there. You're always hustling. You're grinding. Yeah, I'm hustling. Let's do it. Let's do it.
It's so hard to survive there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's funny because my mom always told me as I was coming up in my career, the more work I was doing, I was excited because I started street performing in New York City. I basically recently broke my back and I was doing like theater and stuff. But then when I broke my back, I couldn't do theater because I was in a back brace and I would have to be like a robot if I wanted to do theater. And I've been beatboxing my whole life, but I just met the community around that time, just like coincidentally. And I was like, whoa, there's that lives outside of the internet. Whoa, there's this group of people that are just like me. Like I found my tribe. So I started street performing all the time and then getting gigs and doing open mic nights. And then the open mic nights went to paid gigs and this and this and this. And every time I moved up and had more work, I was so excited. And I would tell my mom and she'd be like, that's really good, but just be careful. Don't burn the candle at both ends. And I was like, my mother doesn't know anything. She doesn't get it.
I'm in my 20s. There's no end to the gas
What
tank.
are you talking about? I have an infinite candle.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the more work I took on, the older I got, the more like other stresses came in. I just completely burnt myself out. And I just realized that I was doing work for work's sake and I didn't necessarily have a clear goal in mind, which is kind of where this all started. Like, I've never had self-discipline my whole life. My family was not the like, did you do your homework? Checking people. If I said I was going somewhere, she didn't like make sure I was going to that place. So I definitely had this mindset growing up that it was kind of just like, I can get away with it. I'm going to make my own path. I'm going to do my own thing, which was good for a while. That's what got me into beatboxing. People told me not to beatbox, but I was like, I'm going to do it anyway.
Right.
But then I realized that it was actually very unhealthy to not have any sort of structure or discipline. And that's what started burning me out because I wasn't creating space. So my whole life I've been very resistant to that. And like, I wanted to be like a free artist and like creative and don't put me in a box. But then the first steps into developing habit and realizing, oh, this is actually something extremely beneficial for me was our friend Amit. he is another beatboxer. We lived together, and he was really big into meditation. And I definitely was not like, oh, I want to meditate and I want to do this. But he showed me some breathing exercises. And as a beatboxer, I was like, oh, I need to do breathing exercises, especially my instrument is my breath. My instrument is my body. So he showed us some breathing exercises. And my whole life, since I broke my back basically like 7 years ago, I still had some back problems. And no matter what I did, I would stretch, I would do this, I would do that. I kept on focusing on the problem, which I thought was my back. And it was never getting better. And I couldn't figure out why I was getting better. And then once we did these breathing exercises, all of a sudden I realized that the breathing exercises were helping my back and that my perspective was wrong the whole time and that I was focusing on the wrong problem. And once I started doing the breathing exercises, it started opening up my back. But I would go and I would tell people like, oh yeah, I do these breathing exercises, but not like hippie. It's not for like meditation. It's for my back. I'm a beatboxer and blah, blah, blah. And I was very adamant on, for some reason, I don't know why, being like, it's not meditation.
Kind of abandoning, you don't want to abandon your beatboxing identity. You didn't want to leave the mold.
Yeah. And I think I thought at that point that meditation was all kind of like hippie, hipster Brooklyn BS. And I didn't want to be that person, I guess. But then the more that I did it, my mindset started to change. In New York City, having that 5 minutes every morning that I was doing these breathing exercises made my day amazing. So I started doing the breathing exercises because it would help me with my back and my breathing before shows. And then everything started to change because now I started to have one thing a day that I was doing that was like anchoring me. And before a show, I would realize that just in my own mind, if I did this breathing exercise, I felt more confident because I was like, oh, I feel like I prepared more for the show on a personal level. Mm-hmm. So once I started doing that, I started getting a lot more into business development, personal development stuff. And now I have a daily routine I do every day, no matter what. That consists of different habits. I kind of stack my habits in the morning because once you start, you're on a roll with it. But it's really changed everything for me. My accountability, my reliability as a person and as a business has completely changed. And I think that, especially as artists, I don't know how you feel as a musician, but having discipline is what will take you to the next level. I think that our community and the stereotype as artists is like, we're like the starving broke artist that will get up at 12 p.m. and it doesn't really matter. But that's an extremely dangerous and unhealthy mindset to have. So I found that a lot of my friends who are artists, like just like me, are very resistant to kind of this idea of developing habits, personal development and growth and stuff. But once they do it, and I think everybody, not just musicians, but once they do it, everything in their life starts to elevate.
Well, I found a lot of parallels between what I've learned in music and how it applies to life. That's just natural. But I completely agree with you that the difference between successful musicians and unsuccessful ones is not necessarily the ideas and the talent. It's the discipline. And I think that there's been countless experiences in my own life where we've just been so full of talent but we've been too focused on the fun part of it, like what we think musicians are supposed to embody. Or just like you with like beatboxers don't do breathing work. They just get up and, throw their shoes on and create beats all day if they feel like it. And for me, it wasn't until we got into kind of group exercises and kind of group ritual that really helped build not only the productivity and the actual business side of it and getting your goals accomplished, but also the camaraderie between you and the other musicians you're working with. Because let's be real, a lot of people hate drama. Most people hate drama, but in a band, in a musical project, it just attracts it like a tractor beam.
Absolutely.
There's so much drama because everyone's trying to express themselves artistically, and it's the kind of fuzzy target off in the distance that nobody quite has. They know what they want and they kind of know what they don't want, but it's not a clear, refined vision for them. And so when everyone's kind of reaching for that same vision, but they don't have the same path to success, they don't have the same rituals to get there, it just causes chaos.
Yeah.
And it can be really, really demoralizing. It can really hurt that momentum to get a project finished.
I think the best thing and the worst thing sometimes about musicians is it brings completely different people together. It's like beatboxers, right? Like I was in a beatboxing group where we all lived in the house, completely different people. If this core thing didn't bring us together, I don't know if we would have met each other and other communities because we just did not have the same paths. And I truly believe that the 5 people that you surround yourself with the most is who you are. Yeah. And it's the things that you do, So I think that creating a group of people that either have the same rituals, like building them together, or just being more with people who have the same rituals as you, practices as you, eating habits is extremely important. Even for me, I was doing my routines for like my daily routine, my eating habits. I also do like intermittent fasting and stuff. I think it's good to have discipline in that regard as well, and not just like be compulsive and eating and drinking whenever you want.
Right.
But we had a friend stay with us after like a year and a half, 2 years of doing this, he was like 19, you know, he would be like totally different eating habits. He was eating like junk food, staying up a lot later than us, would be on his computer, like just playing video games because he's 19. He doesn't, what does he have to do? He doesn't really have to do anything.
Right.
And it started to like, the more that I hung out with him, the more that, oh, you got cheese doodles, man? It's 8:30? Yeah. Let me get one cheese doodle. You know what I mean?
They're reverting.
It starts to do that. Mm-hmm. And again, it's like knowing, I think the power of developing habits is to know when you're starting to fall off of them. I realized that back in the day, I'd just be like, why isn't this happening? Like, why aren't I becoming this person that I want to be? Why do I keep on reverting back to this eating cheese doodles or just going out and having a few beers, even though I said I didn't want to have a few beers, or saying I was going to get up and record today, but then I slept late or I don't know, my friend came over and I did that. So the quote that I heard was like, we don't find ourselves, we create ourselves. And when I heard that, I was like, huh?
Like that.
That's right. I realized that I was been trying to find myself this whole time. I was trying to eat, pray, love, and go on this trip. Oh, well, if I just do this one show, then I'm going to do it, and then I'll be that person that I want to be. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, I did the show, and I'm still sleeping in late. Oh, well, if I just get that commercial gig, then I'll be like the professional I want to be. Oh, man, I still double booked myself one time. Yeah. All right, well, I'm going to go to Europe, and then I'm going to become better with my food and more cultured. And then I came back, and I was the same. And then I was like, man, when I heard that, I was like, I'm not finding myself because I don't know who I'm supposed to be or who I want to be. Like, we're not supposed to be anybody. Our habits create who we are.
Totally. So
I think once I heard that, that's when I was like, oh, damn. Okay. Well, if I can create myself, who is this person that I want to be? And I wrote that all down. Like, I have a huge journal where I would ask myself very specific questions. Like, who do I want to be? Oh, okay. I want to be a musician, but what does that mean? How many shows do I want to play a year? Who do I want to play to? If we don't have clear goals that are defined, how do we know if we're hitting them? And I think that especially as creative people, is where we get lost in this limbo where we're like, we are doing stuff, we're playing shows, but if your goal is to play to shows to 10,000 people, playing shows is just enough, but you're going to become unsatisfied because you're not actually being honest with what maybe you subconsciously want.
Right.
Or you're just kind of going through the motions. So for me, that was huge. I already had the thing of, okay, I'm doing these breathing exercises. I get up every day and I stretch. I do breathing exercises and vocal warm-ups. First, I was just doing it for being a beatboxer because those are the things that will help me become a better beatboxer. But then I started realizing like, oh, just having discipline is making me a better person. I started to not double book myself. I started to be way more professional at answering every email, doing all these things by ourselves. I also think as creative people, we have a lot of weight on us now because it's not the old structure of like, you're just the artist and now you have your manager and you have this. To be a creative person now, you have to be like know a little video editing. You have to be your own personal assistant. You have to reach out to people. You still have to practice every day. There's a lot more that we have to do if you want to be a creative person. And just kind of everybody now. I think everybody has a lot more responsibilities because the internet has blurred the lines of that. So for me, having more of a structure and becoming a more disciplined person has really affected my whole life.
Yeah, that's absolutely true when it comes to having to wear all these hats, every single role. But on the flip side, something that I've been dealing with in my life is this whole like routine and discipline starts to become more and more infectious. You know, you start to see the rewards of having a morning routine, of benefiting from your regular practice schedule. But it gets to a point where you begin to burn out on the discipline side of things. So recently I've had a lot more focus time on booking myself for more spontaneity, which I know sounds so ridiculous.
Nope,
but
I feel you.
Booking myself with like an open window to be like, okay, this is a Saturday. I'm looking at my calendar and Monday through Friday are booked solid between working out, podcast schedules, business stuff, anything and everything. I'm booking myself. So Saturday, I book myself like a chill time, you know, where if I'm feeling like I want to just dive into a new season of some TV show and just totally veg out, that's fine. But what I'm going to do is my focus for that window is to not judge myself
Yeah.
on that, because there's nothing worse than sitting down to like have like a veg out movie time with a friend or a partner or whatever, and you're just, in your mind is in the back burner being like, oh, I should be doing this. I should be doing that. Yeah, right. Exactly. And it's easy, especially, you know, I've never lived in New York, but I've definitely spent enough time there to know the energy that you have, and everybody's always on a mission. And when you come out here, it's like, it's important to stop and smell the roses, or in Colorado specifically, to stop and take in the mountains. I've been here for almost a decade, and I still get completely taken back by the absolute beauty of the nature around us.
Yeah.
So I think that that's something that has kind of reared up in the later development of building discipline. Because when we're young, you're kind of like, oh, I'll grow up tomorrow. I'll be an adult tomorrow. You know, you're kind of like hanging on to your youth. And then eventually that, I don't know if it's like a overnight thing, or it starts to be this kind of existential crisis where you're like, you still want to hang on to your youth, but you're also, when is this going to happen?
Yeah.
When am I going to become this grown up? Or maybe not a grown up, because that doesn't sit right with your childhood self.
Yeah.
But more like, when am I going to be responsible? When am I going to be my best self?
This person that I'm extremely proud of for all the decisions that I'm making, you know, or not all, but if I go to sleep every night, I'm really proud that the decisions that I made during the day.
Along that process, you have to kind of like take a step back and realize the journey is the destination for a lot of this, you know, and like understanding there is so much benefit in discipline, but there's also this beauty in the spontaneity too. Yeah. One of the questions I've been asking my guests recently, because, you know, a lot of the people I have on here are people like ourselves that lean way more towards ambition and discipline than towards, like, you know, the free flowing. But how do you handle spontaneity in your life?
Well, for me, I think that beatboxing in general is, I have my practice moments where every day I'll practice for an hour. But the beauty of beatboxing for me is I can do it wherever I want. It's this instrument, and it's this thing that is always with me. It's something that I can literally just be like, like, I didn't practice that before. It's something that through music and through this trait that I developed, I practice improvisation. I practice going on stage and not knowing what I'm going to do. And that kind of is my balance personally. But I think that appreciating even spontaneity in the sense of communication, like right now, this is completely spontaneous. And I think it's appreciating these moments that we can have that is like spontaneity. And I think what you said is also really powerful, of like, you can schedule in time to be spontaneous sometimes. For me, I do a lot of habit tracking. That was something for me that like really changed everything, because I would get that dopamine rush of having my tracker out and being like, whoa, I did do those 7 things that I really want to do that would make me happy when I went to sleep. And for me, tracking that, like this weekend, my friend Gene came. He's a beatboxer from New York. I did some things. I didn't do everything, but I didn't feel guilty, because when I looked at my habit tracker for the month, I was like, damn, I literally crushed all last week. I did some things, but I could actually see on a piece of paper how I've been spending my time. Right. And I think for me, that has been extremely helpful for those moments where it's Sunday and like, I'm not going to do anything today, because when I look at I have like a bullet journal with a tracker and my to-do list. And every Sunday, also before I start my new week, I look at all the things that I did that week. I go back to my tracking journal and I look at my to-do list and I see all those like little checks and the things that I did. And I'm like, wow, I feel proud of myself, which I think that creating space for gratitude and appreciation is huge. When I was in New York, for the first 2 years of my life, before I did my first West Coast trip, I was running so much that I almost like forgot all the cool things that I did. And it was just never enough. And when I went on this trip, I was taking buses and trains across the country. And then all of a sudden, you know, on a 21-hour bus ride, seeing our beautiful country, it was the first time in 2.5 years that I was like, whoa, I actually have done a lot. You know, I started street performing, and at that point I was doing more shows. You know, I was about to do this cool shows on the West Coast, which I never even thought was possible. So I think having a time, whether it's in your meditation, it could be daily. I definitely practice gratitude daily, but having something, I think Sunday is a really good day. Sunday, I also shut my phone off for a lot of the day. And when I say like shut it off, I mean, it's in a different room. I do not even go near it, because I think that what you're talking about, we have a lot of anxiety now. Social media and seeing what other people are doing, this FOMO experience is giving us anxiety, because we feel like, oh man, we're not where this person is. oh man, yeah, we're not where this person is or this person is. Oh, that person was grinding today, so why am I not doing that? Oh, this person has 200,000 followers. Oh, I should do more work today so that I can get that. But I think that, like you said, the process is a journey and we should appreciate our journey, because where we are now is where we wish that we were 3 years ago. But we never appreciate that. We never really look back and say, whoa, my goal when I first started beatboxing, I said I want to become a world champion. Whoa, I did that. Like, pat on the back, Kaila, good job.
Sure.
We never take that moment. And I think that for me, Sunday's a good rest day, right? Every Sunday I look back at my tracker. I look at the work that I do. I see all those boxes that I checked off for, talking to family, reading. And that's another thing, right? Like, I track things that are sometimes should be easy. Like, there's literally a box on my tracker that's like family. Because sometimes I need that reminder. As somebody who works a lot, it's like I should be reaching out to friends and family. I put things in my tracker that give me space, so that every day I want the little dopamine rush of checking that box and like wanting to accomplish that thing. I have space in that, like my breathing exercises, my stretching, my meditation is in that. So even though I am still in this like a little bit maybe compulsive, like, self-development thing, I'm actually scheduling in time for myself that is giving me that space. So I think that is huge. It's just having gratitude, giving yourself the space and the almost like compassion, being compassionate to yourself. Yes, we're in self-development, but that does not mean that we are perfect people. We wouldn't be developing if we were perfect. We would stop the development process because, we did it all. And that's never going to happen. I think that also, that's why I love doing work in education right now, because the work that I do with schools and with children, no tests. It's all just about music and expression. We just come in and we teach them beatboxing, because not everything needs to be a test. And I think that in general, we need to fall back in love with learning. The reason why I love self-development is I think it's like continuing adult education that we don't get. We don't learn this stuff in school, really.
Yeah, we were starved of it, a lot of us, in childhood.
Absolutely.
We didn't have these more of like comfort zone challenges, right? We weren't consistently pressing the edge of our comfort in order to grow. It's like one thing to pass tests and get good grades on your social studies or whatever, but there's a lot more to be said about stepping out and actually singing or beatboxing, playing an instrument, and music's just such a fantastic area to take chances in because nobody ever gets hurt.
The reason why I love arts and music, and the reason why I'm so adamant about bringing that into schools, is because, of course, it's, it's expressive and it's something that's fun for these kids, but arts and music is really the only classes that you're learning about yourself. Not that STEM isn't important. It's extremely important. We need to know how to count. We need to know what's happened in history so we don't repeat it. But in those instances, if you don't want 2 + 2 to be 4, it does not change. That's what it is. In an art class, even if you're in day 1 preschool art class, when your teacher goes, okay, kids, everybody sit down around the table. You all have a white piece of paper in front of you and a big old box of crayons. What I want you to do is take your favorite crayon, whatever your favorite color is, just put it all over the paper. That's the first day. Easy, right? You're like, blue. I love blue. You put that on the piece of paper. And then when she goes, all right, kids, we're done. Everybody show your piece of paper. That's the first time where you're like, oh, Seth likes orange and I like blue. Whoa, and like Tammy likes pink. Whoa, we're allowed to have differences. Oh, I'm allowed this thing. And I think that, again, that comes back to this like development. It's like, what do you like? What are you passionate about? And what will you work for? Like, what is going to make you excited every day to wake up and do it, right? I think that habits are very hard to build, because if you didn't have that habit, then it wouldn't be, you would be doing it every day. It'd be easy. Mm-hmm. Again, it comes back to being compassionate to yourself and empathetic. Just because you get a bullet journal and you go to the habit hacking conference and you watched a lot of really dope speakers and people who are on their journey, maybe a little bit ahead of you, it doesn't mean that you're just going to buy this bullet journal and now you're never going to skip a day. Right. You're never going to go order pizza at night. It's not realistic. And I think that the more that we put love in ourselves and the more that we really ask ourselves really questions about who we want to be. And once you ask your question about who do I want to be, then you have to be honest about where you're actually at, which is another reason why I love habit tracking, because the first month that I did it, I had like beatbox on it. And for me, that meant like actually, instead of just like improvising, just beatboxing all day and kind of making it be free form, it's like, oh, I want to work on my lip rolls today. I want to work on my technicality today. And when I looked at the first month, I looked back at my tracker and I only practiced, like seriously sat down and practiced beatboxing 3 times.
Yep.
And I'm a champion beatboxer. And that was like a really big reality check for me where I was like, whoa. And I couldn't deny it. And you don't really notice it because you're just filling in boxes every day. But then when you look back at your month, you're like, man, I said that I wanted to go to the gym, but I didn't. And then that's not where it stops. You have to be like, why didn't I? What's stopping me every day from, I know I want to lose 100 pounds, but what's stopping me?
Yeah.
And then it's kind of fun. It's like you become a scientist of like, okay, let's see what will work. Maybe I should go to sleep with my gym clothes on. So in the morning, it's not, I can just get up and I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh yeah, gym, you know, or maybe it's, I have a buddy that I go with that will show up at my door at 9 a.m. and like pull me out of bed. Then that's when you kind of experiment. And then now that's when you get to, now that's like the fun part. I think that's really fun for me is like, ooh, what's the code that's going to get me to this person that I want to be?
Yeah.
But you have to really be honest with yourself first. And I think that's the hardest part about anybody, about anything in life. It's like, you want to be this person, but maybe you're not being that person yet. So I found that the habit tracker has been extremely beneficial because then I can't lie to myself. At the end of the month, I'm like, damn, I didn't call my grandpa enough. Damn, why have I not been talking to my family? I love my family. Okay, this month I'm gonna call my family right now. Okay, I'm gonna amend this, and right now I'm gonna do that. And I've really grown from that in the last 2 years. It's been a slow process, but if you look at my habit tracker from the first year, from like a year and a half ago when I started to now, it was like completely empty. Like the first month, it was like doop doop doop, like little polka dots, and now I have like this cool like wall happening, and that makes me extremely proud. And then that gives me the space to be like, all right, cool. I'm going to take my friends in town today. I'm just going to do my daily routine, but I'm not going to go crazy today. And I'm going to spend time with my friend who's here and be present because I've earned it.
Right. 100%. I couldn't agree with you more. I love the habit tracking. I use an app specifically. I also have like a journaling practice as well. But I hear amazing things about like the bullet journal, which is what you use. You brought back, we're kind of rewinding a little bit, but you talked about this breathing exercise that kind of like stimulated this interest in habit and routine.
Yeah.
Was there a routine that kind of built from there? Like, can we talk about, did you take that breath work and then were you really fascinated by what it was doing for you? So you started doing more research into other routines. Like, can you walk us through how you went from breath work to today? Yeah.
So it was really fun. Again, I'm just going to pat myself on the back because I haven't talked about that. Like, I haven't thought about this in a while, but 2 years ago, no structure, no routine at all, did whatever I want willy-nilly. Then I started this breathing exercise and it completely like just made me feel better personally, right? And would do this breathing exercise before I would go to shows because I was like, okay, this is going to make me stand taller. I'm going to feel more confident on stage. Also, I just noticed, like, if you listen to my old beatboxing videos to now, I used to be like, like you would hear my breaths and it was helping get rid of that. So that gave me like positive reinforcement right away where I was like, oh, it's making me better. I like this. It's really helping me. So I started doing that. And then once that became like a habit, because I would actually get more nervous before I was going on stage if I didn't do it, where I was like, oh man, maybe I won't sound so good because I didn't do this thing. So it started to give me peace of mind. And then I found that I was like, okay, I should stretch before shows too. But if I did my breathing and then didn't immediately stretch after that, if I got distracted, I wouldn't go and do my stretching. I would start talking to somebody. I would go on Instagram. I would do something else. So then I started realizing like, okay, I'm doing this one breathing exercise. I learned like 2 others or 3 others maybe. I started experimenting with like Wim Hof and Kapalabhati, like these different breathing exercises, which made my breathing exercise process a little bit longer. I was more in that moment. And then I basically stacked. I had to stretch right after that because I started again with experimenting. I realized if I didn't do this, then this next thing wouldn't happen. So I would go, okay. And now before a show, I would breathe and then I would stretch. And then I felt really good on stage because I was super limber. My beatboxing and my singing was better because my throat wasn't so tight. And then I was like, man, you know, it'd be even better if I do vocal warm-ups because when I do vocal warm-ups before a show, boom, that's going to make me even better. Like I should, you know, let me warm up my voice more professionally. I'm a professional now. And again, once I started doing like the breathing workshops, that creating yourself mentality really started to happen because then I started being like, it was this positive reinforcement loop of me being like, or this positive feedback loop of me being like, whoa, I am starting to become that person that does my breathing exercises every day. If I can be this person, then maybe I can be a person that does vocal warm-ups. That's what a professional beatboxer does. That's who I want to be as a professional beatboxer. Take care of my vocal health. Again, I would breathe and I would stretch. But if I didn't immediately do vocal warm-ups after that, it wasn't going to happen before a show. So then I basically realized that with habits, once you start the chain, it's really easy to just keep doing it, right? It's like if you have a train with all these cabooses, the first train pulls everything else. If something falls off, if the caboose goes loose, the train's going to be in Idaho and this caboose is in Mississippi still. It's not going to push itself. So once I kind of had that mentality around it, that's when my daily routine really started to form, because I was like, oh, I feel better if I do this, 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 and this. Mm-hmm. And now every day I have this chain, and the first thing is what triggers it. Like the breathing is what triggers everything else. I get up, I breathe, and then through breathing, I stretch and I do this and I do this until that chain is complete for me. And I think that also with habits, it's like getting up and doing it first thing in the morning is going to change your whole day. If the first thing you do is something that you feel proud of, it's like why the military says make your bed. Because it gives you a dopamine like hit of like, oh yeah, oh, I did this thing. Cool. What else can I do today? So I think also for me, like it wasn't a daily routine. It wasn't like a morning routine at first. I was very like relaxed about when I did it. But then again, some days I didn't do it. Right. And I realized that through experimentation, right? Like this has come from me just doing it for a while and just not giving up and having a growth mindset about it and not a fixed mindset. And basically that is just like a growth mindset is essentially saying like, I can do this. I am capable through practice. I will be able to become this person that I am, that I want to be. And a fixed mindset is just like, oh, I'm not good at math, so I'm never going to try math because that's just not me as a person.
Kaila Mullady, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, I can't do it.
I hate those.
I just can't. I'm an artist. I'm not a mathematician.
Yeah.
And I think again, that's why I love doing arts in school, because it makes people have this growth mindset and a love for learning and a lust for learning.
Right.
But doing this, I didn't give up. I had a growth mindset of like, okay, I didn't do it today, but it doesn't mean that I'm not this person. I just have to keep coming back to this and keep practicing this. So I realized that if I did the breathing, stretching, vocal warm up right when I woke up, like got out of my bed, went to the living room and did this, then I would answer emails more. I would actually call my family. I would practice more. But the days that I would maybe get up and not do it for a while, I would end up like watching Netflix for an hour.
Yeah. Or social media.
Or something. Like my day would not be as productive if I didn't do this thing in the morning. So I think that like having that daily routine, the morning routine really, not just daily, but like a morning routine puts me in a mindset and triggers me and makes me proud of those 4 actions that I did. So I want to like keep it up. Like I got to keep the ball in the air now. It's like really fun for me. It like makes me happy every day. And it's like a dopamine rush every day because you did this thing that you said you wanted to do.
Yeah, the morning routine is absolutely crucial. And it's always shifting a little bit. And I try to continually keep at around an 80% completion rate. Well, sometimes it's 100%. And sometimes I'm just rushing out the door and I do like a quick, kind of eye-open meditation on the way to a meeting. But I think what's most important is realizing the self-forgiveness. It's okay to deviate partially, but it's also like, don't miss twice, because whether we like it or not, everything we do is habits, right? And that's what you really start to understand when you're diving into analyzing and tracking your own habits, because it's easy to be like, well, I obviously I eat breakfast, but sometimes you need to have a low-hanging fruit of a check mark. It's like sometimes I need to just check that I ate breakfast, so then I'll be more inclined to check that I worked out too, which is something that I've been struggling with or something. Like it's important, the routine of the tracking. It eliminates this pass-fail attitude that we have that we talked about a little bit about, like when you're a young adult or, it doesn't necessarily matter what age you are. You go to bed either feeling like, man, I am so exhausted because I worked so hard today, or I'm such a failure, I'm never going to get here. This one or the other, because most of the time you're going to be focusing on your shortcomings. And so if you're either a pass-fail, most of the time you're going to be a fail.
Yeah.
But when you start tracking your habits and just journaling and writing your thoughts, you start to realize that today wasn't an F, but today maybe it was like a C, but tomorrow will be an A-.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I know that I'm going to improve on it tomorrow. And you start to really see yourself in a more objective reality rather than this subjective, I'm in a bad mood right now, so I'm just going to beat the shit out of myself, mentally, which I think happens to all of us when we're not mentally strong. Have there been any ineffective habits that have been more of a challenge for you to work with?
For me, in terms of an ineffective habit, it was making the habit so large that there's no way that I could get to that point. It's like what you said, like the low-hanging fruit. Some days, if I have I really want to read, I don't have to read a whole novel. Sometimes if I want to just be like, I read today, I can read one page.
Mm-hmm.
I did it. I read today. I said I wanted to read. But when I first started, it was like, I made these goals that were just like, it's not going to happen. I didn't really have like video editing skills, but I'm like, I'm going to make a video every single day, every week of the year. I'm going to do this. And this one I had like, now I'd feel more confident doing that because I practiced this self-discipline. But in the beginning, this goal of me being like, I'm going to go to the gym every day for 2 hours. I'm a workout person now. This is who I am. Is just so unreasonable. It's not realistic, I think. And it made me feel like shit because then I was like, oh man, I didn't go to the gym every day this week. I only went to the gym 2 times. Oh man. And I would start feeling bad about myself. And then that feeling bad made me not want to go to the gym anymore. It made me not want to create that video because it was so frustrating and I felt like such a failure that I couldn't do it every day that I was like, oh, why can't I do this yet? And it's like, duh, you idiot. It takes practice. You're not a video editor yet. So it's unreasonable for you to be able to just like do a whole track and a whole video in one day when I had no knowledge of production or video editing at all. So I think for myself, that was a big thing of like, oh, I need to, again, be compassionate, not judge myself so much, and give yourself a goal that is a lot more reasonable. Okay, maybe you can't go to the gym every day, but I'm going to do 1 push-up. Boom, I exercised. I'm going to do 20 crunches today. Okay, I didn't get to go to the gym. On days where I can't go to the gym, I'll just be like, oh yeah, I should do something today. I'll do 30 squats and I'm like, okay, I did something for my body today. Certain goals. Also, again, it's like being really realistic. I think that when I wasn't practicing beatboxing a lot, I had these expectations of my head of like, oh, I'm just going to crush this show. It'll be super easy. Oh, an hour show in front of a bunch of people? Pfft, no problem. I'm really good at beatboxing. But then realizing that like, oh, I need a set. I can't just improvising for an hour. That's so hard.
Yeah.
So I think chunking, making things a lot smaller, a lot more easy to digest, those low-hanging fruits is like, you need that. Because if you go way too big, way too fast, you're going to give up. That's why people have the New Year's resolution, you know? All right, and today I'm done smoking cigarettes forever. And then when you're a month in and you smoke 1 cigarette, you're like, oh, I guess I'm a smoker again. You don't go like, oh, okay, wait, oops, I made a mistake, but this is my resolution. It's like, as soon as you feel crappy about yourself because you did this thing, you just give up and you're like, oh, I guess I'm the smoker again. This is who I am.
Right. The system of productivity and the system of sticking with it just can't be understated because we are human. We're going to slip up. And sometimes it's worth it to slip up. I'm personally thinking about, I have a trip coming up, a bachelor party with one of my best friends. And it's like, I know that I'm not going to have a meditation practice every single morning, but I might get like 2 or 3 of those mornings in, or maybe find a group of the guys that I don't know so well. We'll maybe go for a run or work out together or something. Cause we all recognize that we're all a little bit compromised right now.
Yeah.
We're all out of our routine. That's important to recognize the wins, you know, to not be like, well, I shouldn't go on this trip at all because I'm so committed. I'm doing so well on my routines right now that if I go, then I'm going to be 2 years back in progress.
Yeah.
You know, you can like learn to live with it. And it's like a system of success that all hinges around self-love and being like, I'm a badass, whether or not I nail it every day or not. And when you said the reading thing, that just strikes me so much because I have books open in most of my rooms and I don't always get around to sitting down and reading. It's something I've been struggling with of budgeting time to read for an hour.
Yeah.
I just really calm down and get into a book and then follow up with it, you know, because sometimes it's not just reading for an hour, it'll be reading for 10 hours to get through a book. So once again, it's staying with it. But by just having them open and around and being like, oh, I read a chapter before bed. And that's great. I did that once this week and next week I'll shoot for 2 times. It's giving yourself the ability to win rather than seeing this very distant billionaire 3% body fat person and being like, I'll be that tomorrow. And then you keep failing and then you're like, well, that's just not me. It's all about that self-identification and giving yourself some love. Yeah,
I think what was really powerful, what you said too, is the system over the habit. Because if you have a system that you put your energy into, the habits will come through that. For me, the tracker is my system. And there's times when I fall off. It's like you said, it's like social media also gives people this unrealistic expectation of, okay, now I'm a self-development person and I'm never going to fuck up my habits again. Every single day I'm going to do the exact same thing. No matter if friends come, my wedding is that day, I'm still going to do the same thing all the time. I think that there are some people who are like, you know, big self-development people who aren't that vulnerable. It's just all about, I'm killing it. Look at this. I'm in the gym. I got blah, 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 blah. When you're watching that, you're not seeing the real thing that's happening. So for me, it's like having that system in place. And for me, my personal system, it doesn't work for everybody. I think that the journey of self-development is figuring out your own system. The tracker and my to-do list and my journal is so crucial for me. And there's times where for a week I fell off. But when I fell off, instead of being like, oh, I'm a crappy person, I go, oh yeah, wait, let me go back to my journal. And as soon as I go back to having my tracker with me all the time, boom, I'm back into the good habits. But if I just focused on the habit and not the system, if I was just like, oh, I didn't do my breathing today, oh, I didn't do reading, man, it starts to have this negative feedback loop where you feel like you're never going to get back on it. So for me, I put a lot of energy in my system, in having this tracker where every month I start my new one, like I write it all out, because then if I do fall off, instead of being like, man, what do I do? Why am I being this person? I'm like, oh wait, boom, I have this thing that works for me. Hold on, let me go back to my tracker. And then as soon as I do that, everything recenters and I go right back on track, or to the best of my ability, I'm back on track with it. But if I didn't have that thing for me that works, then I would just keep on being in this place of feeling bad. Why didn't I do my habit today? Why didn't I do my habit? Oh, it's because I fell off my system. I fell off the thing that actually really works for me. Mm-hmm. And again, it doesn't work the same for everybody. My partner, I showed him the bullet journal, I showed him these trackers and stuff. That doesn't work for him. He had to figure out his own system. And not doing the tracker every day, he almost felt like worse. He was like, oh, I didn't fill in my tracker. And that was creating his negative feedback loop. But the beauty with self-development right now is like, there's so many different options for you to do. You could track it, you could journal, you could just like have an accountability partner. There's phone apps like you said. There's different journaling techniques that you can do. There's just like videos, motivational videos, and so many people that you can reach out to and ask questions. And especially whether you're in the Denver community or not, there's communities of people in your city that are doing this. It's blowing up right now.
Yeah.
So I think it's just like finding your style, not being so hard on yourself if the tracking doesn't work. I tried a bunch of different things that did not work at all. And then the tracker was the one thing that like grounded me and I kept coming back to. And then I was like, oh, boom, bingo, this worked for me. Mm-hmm. So I think it's just like, yeah, find your own thing, because there is going to be something that works for you and keeps you motivated and keeps you excited to be on your journey.
It seems like there's a lot of different ways to get into that space, but sometimes the hardest part is finding like you said, that kind of the instigator, the first domino that starts the rest of the process. Thinking back on it, for me, it was yoga, and it's almost exactly a similar path as to where you came from, where I kind of stumbled into yoga, and then it was the breath work that I realized was so powerful, and just sitting in your breath surrounding something stressful. And with yoga, it's like you're in a room, there's no other distractions, and you're putting yourself into these contortions and these physically demanding positions. And the art of it is staying in your breath and using the breath to calm your mind and your body. And before you know it, you're using that during a difficult conversation when you're starting to feel heated, or when you're in traffic and you're worried that you're going to be 5-10 minutes late or something. Finding something that kind of starts to be like, this is a tool for me that can really help. And you start to build that more of like the routine, and the practice gives you the ability to draw upon it throughout any time of the day.
Whenever you want.
Right. And it's so hard to tell people that. It's something that they can only really experience. But some of the best memories I have are when, you can't help but get a little preachy, when you start these things. You're like, oh, I love my bullet journal. And you're telling people about it, and they're like, yeah, I should do that.
Yeah,
and
my friends hated me.
No, shut up.
Yeah.
But every now and then it'll come back where it may not be the same, but they'll be like, oh, Seth, I found this other app, it wasn't the app I said, but it's this 5-minute mindfulness timer, and they just play calming music, and I just really get in the zone, and they start telling me all the stuff that I was trying to explain to them. And I'm like, you know what? I can take it. It doesn't have to be me saying, and then they do sort of thing. That's just self-serving,
Yeah.
But you're leading by example, and people are coming up with you. And then just this sense of community and learning from everyone around you. It's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Whatever we're looking to do, this sense of improvement and self-love is coming about. And I'm really excited to see how that affects the next generation, because we keep looking back at that. These newer generations are like, well, these 4-year-olds that are just better on iPads than we are, they're screwed. But there's also this access to information that's coming around right now. And this we've been talking about for the last hour about self-development and understanding your own thoughts and loving yourself. if we can start to instill that into the youth when they're so formidable, they may be able to trump us on some other totally new level coming up.
They will. The new generation always does.
It's not always doom and despair, despite the kids who are born on Facebook or, or whatever, I think there's a lot of promise, but it takes a mindful brigade of parenting. That seems to be the next army that we need more than anything.
Yeah.
Who can bring that up.
Well, it's just the culture shift, because it's even with like beatboxers, right? Beatboxers, I'm like considered old school now. And the newer beatboxers, it's like a very young art form that 15-year-olds are learning it. And a sound that literally took me 2 years to learn, they're learning it as their first sounds. And basically, when they see everybody that's happening, they can just pick and choose techniques that took somebody years to learn. That technique is readily available. They just take it and boom, now that's in their repertoire. I think that as a culture right now, we are shifting to mindfulness. And that is because of the internet, right? This anxiety that's happened. Now we're like, oh, whoa, we need to be slow now. Before everything was slower, we need to speed up, or we wanted that speed up. Now everything is so readily available. There's so many people talking to us all the time that I think this is going to be the new way of life and like health. And I think that the younger generation, it's awesome because people make fun of, oh, look at this vegetarian tofu, vegan, non-GMO thing. But the kids are looking at that and that's becoming normal to them. Mm-hmm. When for us, it was just like, I don't know, gushers. Like my parents didn't really care what I ate.
Right.
Now it's a lot more health conscious. And we even see the shift, I feel like, with our generation. It's always shifting. When I was young, for someone to be gay, it was like, what do you mean? I don't care. Someone's gay. It doesn't matter. 15, 20 years before that, you're getting beat up in the street, right? Recycling, when I was a kid, wasn't that big. But now my nephews and my niece, they're like, yeah, save the planet. Duh, recycle. You don't recycle? What kind of person are you?
Right.
When before, it was like, we were more being introduced to it. So now the next generation is like, duh, this is the thing. We are now introducing a lot of these ideas. Yoga is like, I went down the street the other day. There's yoga studios it's like a Starbucks now.
Oh yeah.
It's like these yoga studios. But kids are looking at that and they're like, oh, whoa. Also in classrooms now they're doing meditation stuff. Like I've seen it in schools that they'll do like in gym, maybe for 1 month out of the year, you practice stretching and meditation. That's like part of PE now. So I think it's really awesome. Also, like just coming from me on the education side of things and seeing that side of the world is like, it's a really broken system right now. People are leaving high school, and if they don't go to college, they like will never pick up a book again because they have so much trauma when it comes to learning. That whole pass fail mentality of you're not enough. You're supposed to get 100 in everything, even if maybe that's not your teaching modality. We only have one teaching modality that we're really teaching in the classroom that gives people PTSD. And then they literally will leave high school or college and they're like, oh, God, I'm done. Thank God I don't have to learn anymore.
Mm-hmm.
This is why this is so powerful. But I think schools now, they're looking for kind of programs that like Mark and I are doing because it's making it fun for kids. Kids are enjoying coming to school. Because if you're a kid now, the coolest thing in the entire world is a phone. And if our education system and the way that we are making learning, if it's not as fun as that thing that we have in our pocket all the time that's buzzing on us, we are doomed to fail. Why can't we bring fun into becoming a better person? Like I have fun tracking. I have fun like drawing in my journal every month. And like I have fun like doodling and doing this stuff. I think it's making it fun. We're bringing like more fun into this personal development stage. When you bring arts into it or music into school, it's fun. Why wouldn't a kid want to beatbox? Why wouldn't a kid, they're being told to shut up all day? Like, hey, why don't you want to like run around? That's why gym was always fun, right? It's like the complete opposite of what you're doing for the rest of the day. What you said earlier, it's like having a structure, but really leaving room for improvisation and no pass fail. We need more of that in life. Like not having a really defined, like you either did it or you didn't do it. Having more time in school where it's just like, yeah, go draw. I'm not going to grade you on your drawing. I'm not going to give you 100. I really enjoyed my art class, but I would always get like 80s and 70s. I had fun doing the charcoal thing, but as soon as I got the grade back where I was like a 70, oh man, but like I had fun talking to my classmates and stuff.
Yeah, I thought I did so well. Someone else tell me I didn't.
Oh, I felt really good while I was doing this, and all of a sudden I got a grade back where I was like, how are you grading me on this? Like, why are you grading me on my art? I know it's not the best, but I thought that this was supposed to be like expression. And I think, again, like when it comes to habit training, it's not about whether you did it or not. At the very, 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 very basis of this, it's about you just trying to become a better person and not staying stagnant. You know, it's like you said when you went to Europe, not boxing yourself on the music. You're like, oh, actually, house music is pretty cool. You know, just trying new things. That's all that it's about. And I think whether you go to the gym every day, you have 3% body fat, you have 200,000 people, if at every day you wake up and you're like, I'm going to try some things that make me uncomfortable, and I'm going to just try to be a better person. I'm going to try to learn new things all the time. That's when you're going to be the best version of yourself, whether or not you hit that meditation every day. If you're just waking up with that mindset, then you are a winner. If you wake up every day, that's great. That's all you need. It's just to try every day and not give up on yourself or other people around you.
Absolutely. Amen.
Amen, brother.
How can people get in touch with you? What would you like to tell the people of Denver and the people of the world?
People of the world.
About what is going on in your world? Yeah,
so basically just talk about habit training, but other than this, this is like a big part of my personal life, but everything else is I am a beatboxer. I love making music. If you want to see some weird fart noises and what the human instrument can do in a way that you don't normally see, and some of the education work that I do with children around the country and around the world, you can find me at KailaMullady.com or on Instagram or Facebook. And you can also see my group Lightship Beatbox, which is with my partner who's the American beatbox champ, Mark Martin, online at Lightship Beatbox.
Awesome. And I'll attach all that in the show notes and make sure to make it very easy to find Kaila. Thank you so much.
No, thank you, man.
Been so cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed this interview.
Same, man. And for anyone out there, the best thing I can ever say to anybody, last thought, just find someone who's interested in the same thing. One person. If you're interested in anything, find someone else that you can just nerd out and talk about it all day, because it's going to make you really excited, like what just happened with me and Seth right now.
Jam on it, you know?
Yeah.
Find something you like and just jam out. See you guys. Awesome. I loved this interview with Kaila, and I'm so excited to see where her path leads. And now, an impromptu jam session with myself and Kaila Mullady. Hey everyone, thanks so much for listening to the MindMill Podcast. If you loved this episode, check out some of the other MindMill episodes. They're all free and available at themindmill.com, as well as all major podcasting platforms. Also, please take a moment to leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It's incredibly easy and really is the best way to support the show. Stay tuned for more MindMill episodes coming down the line. I'll keep them interesting for you, I promise. Take it easy.